start out with Iain Channing, who's one of the producers on the film. Iain? And then co-screenwriter Todd Louiso, I'm sorry. And then Jack Reynor, who plays Malcolm, who's the son of Duncan. So I thought I'd start off with some questions and then open the floor to questions also. Okay. I'd like to start by asking both you and Todd how this project came together, whether it was something that was a spec script and then was sent around and you found it, or you went to them. I mean, how did that?
Shall I leave the first bit and then you can go back in time?
Producers never give up the microphone. Wait a minute.
It's all right, I just come from PGA, so that's, you know. It was 14 years ago we tracked it, didn't we? 14? Yeah. So 14 years ago, I was in my first job in film, and I had to make coffee and photocopy contracts and things. And part of the other job was also to photocopy scripts and give them out to all the executives in the company. And the company I was working at was called Renaissance Films, and it had been the production company for Kenneth Branagh's Shakespeare films. And so we would sometimes by default, the company would get adaptations of Shakespeare, and this script came in. It was one that I had to sort of photocopy, and I can remember reading the first section and going, oh my god, they do the battle. You know, because no one really does the battle at the start, and then sort of realizing that was part of the sort of catalyst of understanding those characters and understanding the journey that they went on. Anyway, but I hadn't, you know, there was no position for me at that time to really get involved. You know, then I thought, well, if I ever become a producer, I'd love to ring them up and see whether the script was still available. And now Todd will take you further back in time.
My writing partner Jake Koskoff and I wrote the script 14 years ago, and 13, 14, doesn't matter. And I had been in a couple productions of the Scottish play when I was younger, and just, you know, loved it. And I just finished making my first film, which was called Love Lies, with Phil Hoffman, and I just had this idea. It was like, I want to do Macbeth with Phil, and just like, you know, reimagining it the way that I kind of felt it, and so Jake and I started to do it together. I asked him if he wanted to do this adaptation with me, and we did that, but we couldn't raise the money with Phil, and after, you know, banging our heads against the wall for a long time, we just, you know, put it away. Because he, you know, once he won his Oscar, then he was just doing really big, you know, Mission Impossible 3s and stuff like that. So we put it away, and then like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, Iain called me and said, I'm producing films now, and I'll never, you know, forget that script of Macbeth, and he said, what's happening with it? And nothing. Is it available? Maybe I should have played it a little bit harder. But I was like, yes, you can have it. Do whatever you want. And, you know, Iain wanted to find another director, which was totally fine. I was just like, please, take it and run with it. And that's what he did. I mean, it's truly amazing that he got this done. And then Iain had Justin come over to LA, and we worked with him for about a week. We went through it just page by page, and then we did a couple rewrites for Justin.
I just want to interrupt here because we haven't talked about how Justin got involved.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd like to hear that before you finish.
So with Justin, I should take a step, which is that phone call was just after we had completed Shame, I think. So we'd been working with Michael through Steve McQueen, Michael Fassbender, and so we read the we were reading the script again. My producing partner Emil Sherman and I was like, well, Michael should play the role of. We're sort of stumbling over the name of the film because we're in a theatre,
how
so it's
superstitious
sort of slightly.
are people in this audience? Should we call it the Scottish
I have to be
film?
honest, some weird stuff started happening during our prep, so we ended up changing because the first call sheet was meant to say the name of the film, and it was. I maybe blame you for taking Hubble Bubble, Toil and Trouble out of the script, but we had to call it the Scottish film for the whole rest of the shoot, and so. But anyway, we're gonna have to name the characters, so I'm gonna be brave. So we sent it to Michael, and he wanted to play Macbeth. There we are. It was. You just don't expect that. Cool. You don't expect that sort of moment to happen where you sort of your dream choice of actor for that role then says yes to it. So we were over the moon, and Justin. So we had to then find a filmmaker to make the film. Justin had made a film called The Snowtown Murders, which is an incredible film about a true story that happened in Australia about. I won't spoil it for people who haven't watched it, but it's about a man who does very bad things, who leads a community basically into darkness because he is such a sort of hero to them. And so if you sort of apply that same architecture to this, it's got some similarities and themes that echo. So Justin had been a designer of the play actually before, but was always felt he had limitations because he was in his heart a filmmaker, but at the same time couldn't have the budget in a play to do what he wanted to do, and so fell in love with the script, and he had already met Michael Fassbender before about another project that didn't happen, and so the family all came together.
Okay, I want to throw in a couple of things here quickly, because for those who don't know, Todd is a real jack of all trades. He's an actor and a director and a writer. And I don't know how many people here have seen Snowtown, aka Snowtown Murders. If you've seen Animal Kingdom looks like a church picnic next to Snowtown. Okay, so anyway, pick up the story.
I don't remember where I was, so...
Well, then you're talking about, because then you would talk to Iain, he brought Justin to you. So what happened?
We just did 2 rewrites for Justin. And that was kind of it. After we kind of, at a certain point, Jake and I felt like Justin wanted to make a couple changes that we weren't really crazy about. And so at that point, he brought on a friend of his, Michael Leslie, who's also credited. And Michael, I guess, worked with Justin to change a few things that we had done. And, that's, at that point, like I said to you, it's sort of the director's thing, and he has to take it. From there.
Well, I'm curious about how you originally came up with ideas of how to pare down the dialogue, how to drop some characters, how to refashion, in a way, Lady Macbeth's character to make her a bit more sympathetic as it goes on.
Right. I don't know how we did it, but Jake and I were very careful with the script and very reverent of it. We had advisors, Shakespearean professors and advisors we would check in with to say, is this okay to cut, do you think? Or if we have this character say this line instead of this character, or if we cut the role of Donalbain and it was just Malcolm. And it was just great fun to just and sit back and work with this this piece and to just reimagine it I just reimagined it very just raw and I don't know, that's sort of.
Okay, well, Iain, how do you as a Brit and Jack as an Irishman
That's good.
feel about tampering with the bard?
Well, in a way it doesn't bother me so much, and I think that this particular adaptation of the film has gone to great lengths to make it a more accessible piece for the audience. Like, I mean, when you consider the fact that we've not really invested too much time worrying about iambic pentameter and so forth, you know, it just brings new layers and new dimensions to the film, I think, and to the play that haven't really been seen before. And I think that there's a couple of great ideas in there as well. Like, for instance, the burning of the wood, you know, rather than the kind of typical, you know, army marching through making shields and weapons and whatever and bringing those to the castle. It's kind of interesting that the end of the film takes place in this kind of blizzard of ash that is the wood, you know. And I think things like that, just like I say, add a new kind of tone and a new, they just lend a lot to the piece, and I thought that was great.
I'm sorry.
It's very strange actually, because in the UK the film released and done very well, and yeah, it has, and the reviews have gone, thank God that someone's like coming at it with a fresh take and a vision, and then it's quite odd in some pockets. I think Australia being a sort of example, is like, how dare you touch anything? But you know, the verse and these stories are incredible, and within, you know, a culture which is not great at sitting still or taking things in or working hard to enjoy something, it's fighting for its life, and I think it is that balance. We've got to look after those words, but it's not about I don't know, sort of buying into a traditionalist view which is going to stop young people from being more interested in Shakespeare, which is, you know, one of the real wonderful things that have come out of this film is that people have gone, oh God, I understand it now in a way that I hadn't before, because the visual language helps them embrace it a little bit more.
I agree. I think it's, I don't want to use the word accessible, although I know it's been used already, but I found it so engrossing. When I was watching it, I was leaning forward, and it was to catch every word, but also to look at the eyes and the expressions. I mean, I found it very engrossing and enthralling. So, whatever. That's worth. I hope you all did too.
So one of the BAFTA Q&A in the UK said, "I've never seen so many men crying." In one
film.
Yeah.
Why?
No, it's just
There are quite a few.
There's a lot of people crying.
Can you hazard a guess?
No, and Justin answered that question. It's to allow that sort of cracks in masculinity that exist and are real. And so, given the circumstances, those emotions are real and coming through and appropriate. You being one of the crying.
Oh my!
Well, it's like, I just always love the line of Macduff's where he says, I when he finds out about his wife and kids, he says, I must feel it like a man first. That's always, to me, just so beautiful, because what's his line right before that? I can handle it like a man, but I must feel it as a man also. And that, to me, I always love that line. Just like, yeah, here's this guy, this warrior who's, in touch with his heart.
Okay. Jack, when and how did you first hear about the project? And did you go after it, or did a casting person say, oh,
it was a funny one, really, because I was working on a studio film over here at the time, and my agent got in touch to say that there was going to be an adaptation of Macbeth, that Michael Fassbender was involved. And I already kind of knew Michael through a mutual friend who's a director, Lenny Abramson, who made a film, Frank, with Michael the year prior. And so I was working on this studio film over here, and I got a phone call from my agent. He said, "Look, you should, really go for this one. I think it'd be a great project for you to be involved in. It's got a lot of great people, and I think it's going to be very original." So a Skype was set for myself and for Justin, and I'd seen his film Snowtown 2 years previously, and
I do not want to work with this man.
it was scary, that film Snowtown has really kind of resonated with me. I don't think I've ever watched a film that was quite so difficult and challenging, actually. But I spoke to him on Skype one way or the other, and we had a great conversation, and really clicked. And then I didn't hear anything about it for quite a while, and I went home to Ireland to make a small independent film. And about 2 weeks before they were going to shoot, I got a phone call to say, "Well, yep, they want you to do it, so you better get ready and get your ass on a plane and get over there."
I'm just imagining myself as that independent filmmaker.
Wow.
When somebody pulls out. You're like, what?
Well, one way or the other, I went over and I had I didn't do any rehearsal with Justin, and he didn't hear my Scottish accent. He didn't want to hear me read any of the verse. He just said, "Yeah, Sean Harris will be a challenge for you." And I said, "Okay." That's great. And that was it, really. So I kind of had no real preparation. I just tried to throw myself into it as best I could and watch everybody around me and try and pick up the slack from there, But it was an incredible experience. What a great challenge. And I think for actors as well, it's important sometimes that we're in a kind of a precarious position, a place where we're a little intimidated, because it's in that place that you can kind of draw the best out of yourself as well. So I saw it as a great opportunity, and I really loved working on the movie. I thought everybody was brilliant.
What's it like working with Justin? How is he as a director?
It was one of the finest experiences in my life. He is an absolutely visionary director, and I can't speak highly enough of his ability to articulate himself on the set and tell an actor exactly what he wants and to get that from them. He is astounding to work with, and I would love to work with him on anything in the future, really. And I think everybody would probably say the same about that also.
Justin did a lot of sort of street casting of the sort of witches and a lot of the Scottish extras, and I can remember this one moment that actually breaks my heart that it didn't make the film, but it was a moment where Macbeth comes back to Inverness and takes the sword of the soldier that died, the younger soldier that died in the battle, to his mother, and gives it to his mother. And the actress that had dropped out playing that role, and we had somebody else, and it was relatively new, and we just weren't getting that sort of emotional sort of sense to it. It was just feeling a little bit thing, and Justin just talking to her just a little bit in the ear, and then sort of walked away, and then, gosh, he just got that absolute pure performance. I was like, what's he saying? Yeah.
I noticed him.
You probably know what we did.
I noticed him do it a few times as I was on set. I watched him go and whisper things in people's ear and then see them fall apart and whatever. And then he came and did it to me. And it is incredibly effective. He can make a grown man cry with his whispers.
I'm going to just mention one other thing and then open the floor to questions, and that is that this film is 235. You may have noticed if you stayed through the credits. An anamorphic film shot with an Arri Alexa XT Plus and anamorphic C, E, and G series anamorphic lenses for any DPs or camera crew people here. And I think one of really the most talented young cinematographers working today, Adam He also shot The Animal Kingdom. He also shot The Snowtown Murders. And I think visually this is just absolutely stunning films. And he's not here, but Iain can answer some questions. But I'm going to open the floor to questions first. Gentleman right here.
Is it 4K? Was there using a lot of natural light? And what percentage of it is CCTV?
Yes, okay. A lot of natural light. Yeah. Because there was Justin really wanted a 360 as near as possible, 360 in terms of shooting space. So yeah, it was natural light. Sorry, was there a second part?
Whether it was 4K.
I don't know actually. Sorry.
I think it was 2K. I thought I read on the, of course, IMDb.
Show of
I'm wrong.
hands.
It wasn't compressed either. It didn't look compressed at all.
No.
Yes.
The battle scene was not only visually stunning, but the choices of going normal speed and slow speed. How did that evolve? Are you familiar with how that came about, that kind of staging of the battle scene?
Does everybody hear this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because it was sort of incredibly important for Justin that that there was a sort of mixture of style within the battles, so that you had the incredible violence, but also that in a sort of dual sense that there were moments where you saw how horrific it was, and also the points where it was sort of the only thing Macbeth knew. There's sort of a sense that he has been living this life for an incredibly long time. He's seeing things differently. It's all slightly different speeds. It's all. I mean, it is quite in that sort of time. And I know Michael Fassbender said it. Shakespeare sort of predicted post-traumatic stress disorder in a very, he had a character who had experienced a war that is described clearly in terms of the experience of that war, and then sees some witches. In the same way that people come back from wars now, be walking down the street, and then suddenly they're back in Basra. So it was very much a sort of mixture of a life that is lived on the battlefield and the differing speeds of that, but then also just the pure raw sort of energy of survival.
Was that done in post, or had he thought of it?
No, it was a phantom. It was the phantom camera for that. So we brought that in for the battle sequences. So there was multiple cameras in the battle, and those vignettes were specifically set up. Like Justin had a whole wall of designs and different paintings, basically during the rehearsal period that he then wanted to sort of capture in some way.
I was really glad that that Adam, or there was no pressure to change the shutter angle, and do it in that sort of more speeded up way. That the slow-mo worked beautifully. But sometimes in battle scenes where they do that.
Sure.
Yeah. Sir?
The most interesting change I thought was when you came in and found Macbeth on the floor with the king. And I'm wondering what you felt why Macbeth didn't gut him right there. That was my question.
Can you hear that, everybody?
Yeah.
We felt like he was hallucinating at that point when he sees Malcolm, because he goes up to him and he says, "Live you?"
Are you working on my question?
Yeah, and so it's like he's so in whatever state he's in, he feels like he might be hallucinating, and that he's not really there.
Oh, gentleman back there? Yes.
I was wondering if you, in your script, set it in the time period that the film was actually put in, and how hard is it to raise money for a Shakespeare film?
Yeah, we said it. Jake and I said it in that period. Yeah, that was part of the. Yeah.
It's not the easiest. We had wonderful supporters on the film, in the sense that Studio Canal and Film 4 in the UK were incredibly inspired by it all and came on, and then the Weinstein Company over here. But it was incredibly tricky. I think it was really Michael Fassbender being in the title role, and not just in terms of he's a star who's been in work, but more the promise of that experience in terms of him as an actor, and this role has been such a defining role for certain people, Ian McKellen and so on. So Orson Welles. It just felt like there was a real opportunity with this film that we could capture the sort of acting generation of our time in the UK, and really, I guess, tune into a younger audience that wouldn't necessarily go and see a Shakespeare film, but actually go and see a film because it had this talented set of actors in. So it became possible because of that, I guess, foresight of what all those actors would bring to the roles.
Did Michael come to you? Had he seen the script? Because I believe he had seen Snowtown and was a fan of Grizel's. But at what point did he see the script?
When we re-optioned it, or when we optioned it, within 3 days we sent him the script of having a signed contract. So, he read it then.
The gentleman who's like going like that with the red shirt.
Thank you. I'm a French actor, and I've done a boatload of Shakespeare, and I was wondering if you could share some secrets of the trade of how Marion Cotillard was able to achieve what she did. I mean, obviously she's remarkable and above, she's amazing. But still, did you get help?
In what way?
Serving the poetry, staying true to the meter, losing her accent, and staying so realistic and true.
Well, directorial help, and we had a voice coach, Neil Swain, who's incredible.
Neil Swain?
Yeah, who was on set.
Neil Swain.
Okay. But then, Marion did an extraordinary job in the sense that she had not played this role in French, let alone worked with verse before, and she just loved the idea of that role and really loved the idea of being involved in the film. And then I think when she signed up, she went, wow, okay, this is a big deal. And actually, there was a sort of strange process because all of the pre-press that Marion was doing, she was going, oh God, I'm awful. And we're like, I kept on saying, why are you telling people you're awful? Because you're amazing in this film. And she's like, I just don't think I am. So we'll wait until it comes out and then people will say, because I think it was such a brave move for her to want to take it on. But there's just this magnificent otherness about her within that community, and the sort of the French, the light French just coming through just gives an extra anchor, I think, to why she has one sort of lady maid when we get to Dunsinane, but there's a sort of separation, a sort of an existence that is sort of slightly empty for her, and I don't know, it all just comes together with her, and the out damn spot sequence for me is extraordinary.
But I think also she had more to play with, if I could say that, even than in Shakespeare, where it's a more one-dimensional, manipulating bitch, character in a way. And here, first, starting with the dead child, which of course is an addition, you see all the grief, and then later when she goes, oh my God, what have I created? So I think it also allowed her to bring all of those emotions in.
I always have sympathy for Lady Macbeth. I think she's, to see her as that is just, it's not true. I feel like there's so much going on with her, with living in this, just she's just another village. I completely feel for her.
How many in the audience agree? The woman next to the Frenchman. Oh, sorry, or man, I can't tell. Yes.
My question is about your lack of sets. Everything was outdoors. Was that a budgetary thing?
No.
It's the best sets possible.
Oh God, no! If we could do it contemporary, that would have been a different thing. No, Justin wanted it to have a sense of being a little bit like a Western. It was kind of amazing going with him on the recce's. As a producer, you're sort of like, we could go to the place with the tax credit. Hopefully he'll love the place with the tax credit. Never happens. And so we were in Northern Ireland. We were in Ireland. We had a wonderful day on the Game of Thrones set with no one else there. We were sort of with swords and stuff.
Did you say Northern Ireland?
Northern Ireland. Well, we went to visit.
Oh.
No, we went to Recce. And because I said I'm going to put Scotland last. So literally, the Australian boot came out of the cheapy vehicle we were in. It was like, oh my god, this is the reason to make the film. I was like, we're going to Scotland. Okay. I'm half Scottish, so it sort of helped have my family be very excited about it all. It was sort of the Australian perspective on the British landscape is sometimes not the same perspective as the British, in the sense that sometimes we don't really see it because it's so close to us, how amazing it is. And that's what the film is also for me, is like this incredible love letter to that landscape, and it just really sets up why the characters can sort of do what they do. There's a lot of space and a lot of paranoia to fill.
Particularly, like, if I might interject as well, I think like when we went to Skye, that was just unbelievable. And I remember when we all got out of the car, everybody kind of said, when we looked around, it was no joke to get there. It was about 5 hours from Inverness on these crazy roads. It was just the most mental journey to get out to shoot at Skye. But when we did arrive there, everybody kind of said, nobody's going to believe that this isn't CG, you know? It was just the most honestly, the most awe-inspiring landscape that you could ever really witness. And on top of that, to have an opportunity to shoot at locations like Bamburgh Castle and like the real Hadrian's Wall, you know, that's not something that comes along every day. So of course, that would be the option over sets, I think.
Hopefully you guys don't realise it's visual effects. If you're lost, then we're in trouble.
Unfortunately, I've been told that the time is up, but I'm going to ask 2 questions first. First is, what's the production schedule? How long was the shoot?
7 weeks. 7 weeks.
6 days? Or a week or 5 days?
11-day fortnights.
11-day fortnights.
Yeah.
Interesting. And finally, do the clouds in Scotland really move that fast?
Yes.